So the next season of Fortnite is officially announced to be a full-on Star Wars collab season. It's only going to last a month, updates every week. And as a Star Wars fan, I'm definitely hyped for the next season. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Star Wars fan. It also actually looks promising. But did this have to end up conveniently being the third season of the chapter? The third season of each chapter has easily been the worst one. So today, let's talk about the season 3 curse and how the Star Wars season might be able to avoid it.
A little ninja, cute little baby ninja, a plush ninja in their 1 year. Ninja pacifiers. I want your baby sucking on me. Okay, that.
I guess we have to start off with the original Chapter 1 Season 3, but there's not that much to talk about here. It was harmless, just a basic early season of Fortnite. You can't really argue that it was boring, because again, this was just the third season of the game, and yet they were still adding new stuff every single week. The most common theme we'll see for future Season 3s in this video is that they completely changed the meta, but that obviously wasn't and couldn't have been the case for this one. It was basically a Season 2.5, and at the time, no one was criticizing it. This took place during Fortnite's original explosion. Everyone was learning the game, and there wasn't that much to compare it to anyway. This is just the perfected version of early Fortnite without all the jank from seasons 1 and 2, like not being able to place a ramp next to a truck for some reason. The hunting rifle stands the test of time 7 years later. The deagle, llamas, vending machines, guided missile, clingers, these are all iconic additions and nothing too controversial.
I invited Aquaman. He said yes. So I said, can you wear a shirt? He said, no.
I absolutely loved the flooded map from Season 3's launch. I don't have anything else nice to say about this season, but the flooded map was amazing, and it only lasted a few weeks. Map changes are formulaic. You're gonna get a new biome or just a few POIs spread across the map, but this season Epic decided to do it different and changed practically 75% of the map, which was much needed at the time since Chapter 2 was getting so boring after 2 extremely long seasons on it. Some people didn't like having a fight in the water, and I get it, but Epic made it so that you could just build in the water, so I don't think it was that bad.
Why can't I build? Why can't I build? Why can't I build?
Oh, and if this season existed today with zero build, it would be a complete nightmare, but that wasn't the case 5 years ago, so that's not how we're going to judge it. Anyway, that's basically where my praise ends for this season. A lot went wrong. As I mentioned, the flood didn't last very long, and in just a month and a half, we were already back to the standard Chapter 2 map, and they actually managed to make it even worse with the addition of Coral Castle. Season 3 was the shortest out of any Chapter 2 season, and I think it would have just made sense to keep it flooded all the way through. I like to imagine that there were some people that didn't play for the launch, but saw the trailers, and then were extremely confused when they hopped on and just saw the normal Fortnite map. I guess they had to drain the water for the introduction of cars, but that couldn't have just waited until Season 4. With all the water on the map, we also got sharks and the ability to ride them with a fishing rod, so you have to use up an inventory slot to do this. No one really used this feature past the first few days. Maybe if we just got water skis around the map that you could equip without taking up a slot, it would have been a better version of this mobility. Moving on to the meta, and Epic vaulted the pump for the second summer season in a row. The charged shotgun was introduced to replace it, and why? Apparently this gun has its fans, and it has gotten buffed over the years, but I just don't get it. If you hear someone charging it, just place a wall. Maybe this would have worked in earlier Fortnite, but at this point, box fights were already the meta. But at least we can still use attack, right? Not really, because they nerfed it for seemingly no reason other than trying to get people to use the charge. We did have the mythic charge, which was really strong and obtained at Kitty Corner with the mythic shockwave launcher, making that easily the best spot on the map to land at. The mythic drum gun was reworked and got some necessary nerfs, but I think they just took it too far to the point where it wasn't even worth using. The last update introduced cars, which were really hyped up, but they were just kind of boring. They were unbearable to use unless you were on the road, and the first vehicle to introduce the fuel mechanic. So while I think Chapter 2 Season 3 had potential, it could have been better executed. The reality is that it wasn't. The season was not great.
How to make the new Dragon Ball Mythic in Fortnite 10 times stronger. So we all know the Kamehameha.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Vibin is where Season 3s go to shit. It's a shame because I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Chapter 3, and then Vibin released. The map changes were cool, Reality Falls is a fun POI, the new biome visually looks great. My only problem being that Greasy Grove is on life support when it should have just been removed entirely and replaced by a brand new POI that better fits the biome. During the season, we'd get locations randomizing and changing each match, which was a really cool concept, but it didn't matter because the gameplay sucked. On launch, we got the hammer AR, 2-shot shotgun, and DMR, and you're basically at a disadvantage if you willingly chose to use these weapons. They changed the recoil on the hammer AR down the line, which made it a better weapon, but it's not competing in this meta with the red dot AUG. The updates did nothing to help. No one is using the jigsaw launcher. The prime shotgun, I guess, is fine in Chapter 3 Season 4 because that shotgun meta was worse, but in Season 3 with the striker pump and the auto, there's no point in picking this up, and Epic introduced a top 5 worst weapon of all time with the Charge SMG. Darth Vader got added with his own lightsaber. No thank you. Yes, I'm hyped for the Star Wars season, but I definitely won't be using lightsabers unless they have force abilities or get buffed. Overall, Vibin had a pretty rough launch and only got worse as the season continued. It was generally agreed that this was a bad season, but last year in an interview with Donald Mustard, he confirmed it was the last season he was fully involved with, I guess in terms of collabs and the Fortnite storyline. And yeah, it's kind of bittersweet and nice for him. His last season is this huge celebration. Now all of a sudden people are nostalgic for it. Let's be real, Donald Mustard, it's great that you finally got Darth Vader in Fortnite. Can we maybe fix the loot pool while we're at it?
Is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
Amazing. Okay, you weren't supposed to kill him, but that's okay. You killed him. You're banned. And mods?
I don't even know where to start here. Do we talk about the obnoxious loot pool or the godforsaken jungle biome? This was pretty hype, man. I thought we were going to get something like the original Season 8 jungle, but they dropped the ball here. You had to drop down into the jungle, and then going through it was a mess with all the mud and the tall plants and the places to hide. It was not fun taking fights in this area. It could have been less annoying if the biome was confined to one of the corners of the map, so you'd only have to go there if the final zone ended up being there. But this jungle was just slapped dead center on the Chapter 4 map. You basically had to rotate through it 90% of your matches. This map change was so bad that not only did I dislike Season 3, but it affected my liking of a different Season 2. Chapter 4 Season 4 to me was a peak. Almost perfect, except for the fact that you have to rotate through the jungle almost every single match. On launch, Wilds had a serious mobility problem. We went from having the kinetic blade, ODM gear, and Spider-Man mythics to nothing. Cars weren't even that useful for rotations because you can't really bring them into the jungle and use them on that terrain. Now, Vibin's problem was that the map was fine, but the loot pool hurt the gameplay. Well, with Wilds, Epic is bringing you not only a bad map, but a bad loot pool as a little bonus. This one was just all over the place. There's bad weapons like the lever shotgun, the thermal DMR, and we also got the cloak gauntlets. Epic, you gotta stop making invisibility items, they just don't work. A lot of mid weapons. The flapjack rifle doesn't have great damage or accuracy, but it does have 45 shots in the magazine, so just hold down left click and hope that some of the shots connect, but they probably won't. The pump was reskinned in the form of the sharp tooth shotgun with similar stats, so why? What was the point of this weapon existing? Why add it when we already had the Havoc pump in the game, and Epic can't even be bothered to give it a unique model? On the overpowered side of things, we had the drum shotgun coming back with a mythic version and the new explosive repeater rifle. I'll give the season credit for introducing the mammoth pistol, although I'm kind of sick of it now for how long it's been in Reload and now in Battle Royale. And I think the MK Alpha was a fine addition and a balanced version of the MK7, but that is not at all enough to save this season. This is where people started to see a pattern, and the Season 3 curse was officially named. We've had flat out bad seasons that everyone could look back on, laugh, and think, what was Epic doing? But we've never had a season as controversial as Wrecked since Season X. Now, I'll give the season credit for its map changes. The desert biome was aesthetically beautiful, but because it was a wasteland, it was pretty barren with nothing to offer, which would have been fine if there were incentives to land at the new POIs for mythics and medallions, but there was a chance that the bosses were just in their car driving somewhere else on the map. The gameplay this season was different, to say the least, and that's not always bad. Epic has to make changes, and nearly 8 years into this game's lifetime, if they haven't been constantly shaking things up, it wouldn't be anywhere near as popular as it still is now. I think the flooded map from Chapter 2 was a fun way to mix things up, but Wrecked completely missed the mark. Everyone knows the cars were insane. The boss mythic cars were on another level, infinite nitro, and initially they automatically regenerated health. This isn't fun no matter how you split it. Obviously, fighting against the cars is a nightmare, and using an overpowered car could be fun for maybe the first 5 games, but after that, what's the point? If winning is that easy, why would I care? Why would I have any desire to keep winning or keep playing the game? A game where you can practically turn your brain off and still win is not well designed. It's funny because even if cars were taken completely out of the picture, the combat on the ground with guns was still not great. The nitro fists were another item where you could just turn your brain off and spam click to win, and the nitro mechanic in general allowed you to bash through structures, ram into players to damage them, gave infinite stamina, no fall damage. It was ridiculous. By the end of the season, after the endless complaints, almost everything was nerfed, which wasn't enough to save the reputation of the season, and just made it feel like all that annoying and arduous gameplay that we had to put up with was for nothing. And then they added the Magneto Mythic too, by the way. Wrecked has its fans and spawned a casual versus competitive war during its time, with the main argument for the overpowered cars being that Fortnite needs to change and you should just adapt. There is no adapting to this. This is not good game design. There definitely is a pattern here, so what goes wrong with Season 3? For the last few years, chapters launch in December and last for a year. This means Season 3 ends up being in the summer, and we've been playing on that new map with those new weapons for half a year already, and Epic really wants to shake things up. Look at Chapter 2 Season 7 from the summer of 2021. That didn't have this problem. Matter of fact, it seemed like Epic wanted to keep it simple because the map had barely any changes. We did get some new futuristic weapons, but the loot pool for the most part was made up of classic fan favorites. When it comes to chapters 3, 4, and 5, the third season sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, the Star Wars season is going to mix things up, but looking at what we could be getting, I don't think it's going to be that bad. By the way, make sure you use code Tedesco if you're picking up the Battle Pass or any of the skins in the shop next season. And for anyone not looking forward to it just because it's a Star Wars collab, you know, the people saying, guess I'm not playing Fortnite for a month. One, no one cares, and two, we've had collabs integrated into season's gameplay for the past few years now. This is just going to be on a larger scale. We've had Sub-Zero's Mortal Kombat mythic for the entirety of season 2 and just got more Mortal Kombat recently. We had Godzilla on the map a few months ago. You don't need to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy the next season, just like you didn't have to be a Marvel fan to enjoy the past Marvel seasons. I'm assuming that the lightsabers are going to have their Force abilities from the Chapter 4 Star Wars event, which was the best one by a mile, and it's about time we got Force Lightning. People are concerned about the aerial combat with the X-Wings and TIE Fighters, and I get it. Maybe I'm a little biased because flying a TIE Fighter would be like the coolest fucking thing ever, but I think Epic also learned their lesson from last year's disaster. As long as these vehicles aren't outputting insane damage and they're not a pain in the ass to take down, we should be fine. As for the map, Epic actually posted an image of it while I was recording this video, and it's kind of underwhelming to be honest, which is fine, I guess. That's better than getting the wild jungle biome, so I'll take it. I'm pretty confident in saying that Chapter 6 Season 3 will break the Season 3 curse. Will it just end up turning into the summer season curse from now on? I don't know, probably.